The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet.
The big guests for our coverage of Aintree has to kick off with one of our favourite guests, Danny Mullins. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Emmet. Yeah, great to be back. It's an exciting time of the year. The Grand National is one of those races that really hits that wider audience.
Yeah, very much so. It's going to be a massive TV audience, not just in the UK and Ireland, but globally as well. And you're going to be a big part of it. You've kind of broken my heart, though, with your selection in the Grand National. Can you explain why you've chosen the horse you're going to ride?
Yeah, I think I'm probably likely to end up on Meeting of the Waters at this stage. I think, rightly or wrongly, I'd say a lot of people think I've made the wrong decision and not riding Manila Cocooner. I suppose it's just come down to ground and weight, where Manila Cocooner, it was good ground at Sandown, but he's got a lot of good form on heavier ground. The weather looks dry in Aintree, and he's shouldering that extra £9 at 11.2 for winning the Bet365 last year. So Meeting of the Waters, his form isn't sparkling lately, but he's only got 10.7. I thought I was a winner jumping the second last on him last year until I looked over to see how well Paul Townend was going on Maximus, and possibly, he looks to be a bit more mature and settled in his races this year, and the ground is going to be a little bit quicker around Aintree, which would give him a better chance to switch off early in the race. But it's splitting straws. I don't think I'll be beating Manila Cocooner very far. I think both of them have got great chances, and I'm in a very fortunate position where there was a possibility of riding a few horses in the race, and a little part of me would love to see Manila Cocooner running well too.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I can completely understand why you're going to ride him. You've been around there before. You know he's going to jump the fences. You know he's going to stay. And if you're in contention rounding the elbow, then it's game on. But it has to have been a difficult decision for you. Manila Cocooner, you've already talked about his chances, and it's there for all to see. There's a number of other horses, though, as well. A good friend of mine telling me that Appreciated, he thinks he's got a massive chance. And you go look back at his back class form. It's there. Grange Clare West ran an absolute blinder at the Dublin Racing Festival. Nick Rocket is the Thyestes winner, who's unexposed as well. There's a lot of horses there. We haven't even talked about the Grand National winner, Maximus. Your uncle's got some serious firepower.
It is, and it's the beauty of the Grand National is still there. In recent years, people talked about it not being the race that it was before. But when you look at the betting now, I think are the top 10 in the betting spread by about 3 or 4 points. Yeah. It's as open as ever. You still have your trills and spills. The types of falls that come now are more so speed, where a horse can slide and slip at the back of a fence and take probably what's a sportsman's fall, where they tend to get up and walk away. And that's the way, racing has to go if it maintains its social license. But it's still a race that you cannot put your finger on.
Of the horses I've mentioned there for Willie, is there one that really was a torture chamber for you, aside from Manila Cocooner, who's been well talked up and is well fancied? But was there another one that you looked at and really had to carefully consider and struggled to say no?
Well, there's a lot of those horses that I wouldn't have had the option of riding, but one that's probably not on the tip of people's tongue is the one you mentioned, Grange Clare West. That run in Leopardstown, that's serious form. The Gold Cup second behind him, or in front of him, and the Gold Cup winner behind him. That's, people are judging him on his run in Navan the last day. That was over a trip too short, and I think that benefit of the run in Navan will have him going there with a lot of fitness banked. And I think his run, it might be one of the standout pieces of form from the ones this season. Nick Rocket has been penalised for winning. He's going there in great nick, but he's got a lot of weight. But he was very good in Goran and in Fairyhouse the last day, so it's still a very open race. But you can make a case for a lot of these.
Yeah, very much so. George Gorman has been talking to me about Grange Clare West now for quite some time, and the more he talks, the more I see the case for him. That novice chase form is really red hot as well, and that DRF form was excellent. And it does require context. That defeat the other day, that was just to qualify him for the Grand National. They had to run him, and that race just fitted in quite nicely.
Yeah, you would have liked to see him run better on the day, but over that kind of trip, and the odds-on favourite got beat in the race, it might not have been a truly run contest. So credit to the Hallies for upstaging them all on the day.
Yeah, well said. And if El Fabiolo comes out and upsets his old rival Jonbon, then suddenly that Grange Clare West form is going to look even better. All to be revealed on the Friday. Let's talk about, you're going to ride Facile Mode in the Grade 1 Novice Chase on Thursday. How are you feeling about him?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Facile is as confusing as Tom Mullins is himself. His form of winning in Punchestown, where he beat Touch Me Not, was brilliant. Touch Me Not franked that form so well. And since then, we couldn't really get his jumping together. And the last day, Jake Cohen rode him around Navan, and he put in his best round of jumping, but to fall at the last. So it's just very difficult to work out. He's a horse with huge ability, and Tom has maintained belief in him. I think better ground will suit him. And yeah, who knows which Facile will turn up, but there's a very good horse in there somewhere.
Impaire Et Passe will be up against you. He was beaten at the Dublin Racing Festival, but that happened last year as well, and then he bounced back to win at Aintree. Could he repeat the dose this year over fences?
I think it could be. It looks to be a strategic move again, which paid dividends last year when he won in a three-way finish last year. So, yeah, I think, he's been put away for the race, and he looks the one that they maybe have to beat in it at the moment.
You'll get your first taste of the national fences in the Topham. You're going to ride Glen Gooley. He unseated his rider in the Thyestes chase last time out, but there is a little bit of form there. You got to go back, but it's there. What do you make of his chance?
Yeah, he seemed to take to the fences very well last year. He got a bit worked up at the start, but Michael O'Sullivan got a great spin off him around in the National, and he just didn't look to stay. So back to 2 mile 5 in the Topham. I think it could be a race that'll suit him on what he showed last year. There was a glimmer of a return to form in the Thyestes before he departed at the last. He was running a fine race, probably the best race he's run this season. So, yeah, hopefully at a big price, it might be foolish to say I think I'll win, but I think at a price I can run a good each way race in it. Who knows, around those fences, if you get attacking and jumping well, it might be involved at the business end.
Our guest coming up, Nicky Henderson, dropped a bit of a bombshell in the juvenile hurdle by taking Lulamba out and running him against the older novices on Saturday. That's an intriguing move, but it's blown up that juvenile hurdle. Rachel Blackmore is going to ride the enigmatic Willie de Hooley. Which version turns up, who knows? If it's the DRF version, he'd have a chance. If it's the Cheltenham version and the Christmas version, he's got no chance. And Mersey is clearly a horse held in pretty high regard.
Yeah, definitely. You've hit the nail on the head. It's interesting with some of those juveniles. It's hard to know what they're going to do, and maybe the ones that had harder races in Cheltenham might struggle to reproduce that come Aintree. So often a race where you can see a bigger price one coming up and doing it, and Willie is pitching him in there. There's good prize money on offer, and it's a great one. So yeah, hopefully one of them will hit the firing line. Hopefully
so. The big chase, we've got Gaelic Warrior and Embassy Gardens. I mean, Gaelic Warrior with Patrick on board, I think, is going to have some people raising a few eyebrows, but he's ridden the horse to Grade 1 success in the past. Going up to 3 miles is something I've wanted to see from this horse for quite a while, but is he still Gaelic Warrior? He's just looked a little bit disappointed in what he's done so far this season. You would have expected him to improve for the Christmas run, and he never really showed up at DRF. So, yeah, probably wisely sidestepped
Cheltenham, but as did Embassy Gardens, with this race maybe in mind. They would have had to take on the Gold Cup with Embassy Gardens, and he jumped out and put away a fairly strong field in Tremor on New Year's Day. So yeah, Embassy Gardens will be one that might be hard to beat. For Gaelic Warrior, going left-handed is just not ideal for him. I wonder, will Punchestown suit Gaelic Warrior better? But you'd love to see him show some bit of sparkle in Aintree, and he'll have time to recover before Punchestown.
Yeah, that's a great shout about Punchestown as well, where he'll be taking on Galop on Deschamps, hopefully, but that might suit him an awful lot better. You obviously know Lossiemouth very, very well, and she's going to be taking on Constitution Hill, but this time, not only is it personal, it's also over her trip. How do you feel about her chances?
I think she's got a great chance. I would have loved to see her take on all of the aforementioned in the Champion Hurdle, but got a great confidence boost in the Mayor's Hurdle to set up another great match with Constitution Hill. He's coming on the back of a fall. Did he look his brilliant best in the Champion Hurdle before he departed? I don't think so. So I think if Lossiemouth can bring her A game, and Constitution Hill is a bit below his best, I think she's got a fair chance of beating him.
Yeah, I think we've got our international correspondent Ivan Venko has got something to say about Constitution Hill.
If you can make God bleed, then people will cease to believe in him. And there will be blood in the water, and the sharks will come.
Eloquent as always, Ivan Venko. I don't know why we haven't had him on the show for quite a while. Blood in the water. Lossiemouth is coming for Constitution Hill's Aintree Hurdle crown from 2 years ago. Dancing City is obviously a horse you've got a fantastic relationship with. Paul's going to be on him like he was at Aintree a year ago. That was a win for him. I have a sneaky suspicion with this fella that he's just not in love with Cheltenham, but he was in the lead with you coming to 3 out at Cheltenham, and you were still in contention until that bad mistake.
Yeah, he made a mistake there. Stopped quite quickly afterwards. After Cheltenham, I look back at the race, and while we were in the position we wanted to be, and it's where the winner came from, I wonder, did I not make enough use of him in Cheltenham? I think, we dictated the race, and the winner's upside us all the way, and as the race panned out, that's where the place to be was. But for the horse, I wonder, should I have made more use of him in Cheltenham? And I think he can bounce back from that. He stopped quick enough that he didn't have the hardest race in the world. So, yeah, if he can bounce back from that, I'd imagine, Paul will have his idea on what he wants to do. The brilliant thing about him is how well he jumps. And, yeah, I wonder, looking back at Cheltenham, should I have attacked a little bit more through the middle part of the race?
He's the best bet of the meeting. He's incredible value, I think. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in action, and that's just given me even more confidence than he gamble responsibly and all that. Salvator Mundi, just very briefly on him. He's a bit of a... He's clearly talented. I thought he did well in the Moscow Flower Novice Hurdle. He overcame the race, and then the Supreme Novice Hurdle is a race that just kind of confounds me. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, the Supreme was disappointing. You'd have to say Aintree is going to suit him better, not the stiffest finish. You'd hope they'll go a good gallop, and hopefully he can get back to the horse that he showed he was in the Moscow Flyer. But again, maybe he's one of those horses that was beaten so far in Cheltenham that he didn't have a grueling race, and that might leave him coming here a bit fresh.
And finally, a horse that I'm really intrigued by is Kitzbuhel. Now, you won the feature race at Goran that day, the Red Mills Chase, but the Red Mills Trial Hurdle, he was an odds-on favourite. He was expected to go and win the race. He's done it pretty well. But going up to 3 miles, better ground, totally unexposed, really, really interesting horse. What do you make of him over the 3 miles?
Yeah, he's a fair horse. I think 3 miles will give him a chance to show his best. That was, he was well placed through Goran. I arrived on his outside, maybe on Sir Gerhard, down to the second last, and he picked up quite well on slow ground around Goran. But on nice ground, I think the 3 miles will really see him to his best effect. And yeah, he's an unknown yet. He has all the potential, but there's probably nothing in his form that says he will win this race, bar the fact that, Paul's on him and he's trained by Willie with the potential to be a Grade 1 horse.
Do you think he'd be a better chaser next season?
I think he can be, yes.
Excellent stuff. Danny, safe flight. Best of luck at Aintree. Hopefully you come home safe and sound. And hopefully you're winning the Grand National, but not beating my beloved Grange Clare West / Manila Cooner combination. They're the two that I'm really looking forward to. But if anyone's going to win it aside from those two, I hope it's you.
Thanks a million.
As our coverage of the Aintree Festival continues, I'm delighted to be joined by the 6-time champion trainer, a man who has racked up 144 Grade 1 wins with plenty more to come. And considering 42 of those Grade 1 wins have come at Aintree, we're probably going to see a few of them this week. Nicky Henderson, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
And good to be talking to you, Nikki. You've dropped a bit of a bombshell by switching Lulamba from the juvenile hurdle to the 2-mile 4 novice hurdle. I suspect this is a question you've been asked a few times. What's your thought process?
It's cropped up a few times this morning.
I had a feeling.
It was quite simple, actually. It was an idea. I mean, everybody knew that I'd put him in. And this was only on where we entered on, must have been last Saturday. And just looking at it, I mean, the one thing that was always in my mind is that the horse, my biggest concern was that Aintree could just be sharp enough for him compared to the galloping tracks that he's used to, like Ascot and Cheltenham, where he's had his previous 2 runs. It is a tight track. It's a speed track. And I'm not saying he's not quick enough, because he is quite sharp, but very laid back as well. So my just idea was, and then I threw it amongst all my pundits and advisors, team, and it just, surprisingly, I thought it was quite sensible for me. And we'd sort of have debated it quite a bit in the meantime. There are 2 advantages of doing it this way. I say the extra half a mile is, I think, important to him. Secondly, these 4-year-olds get a £10 allowance. And I do think at this time of the year that is very generous. So we're using that. I mean, those older exposure horses have got to give him £10. The 4-year-olds themselves, I mean, I know the winner of the Fred Winter, who was put up, I think, 12, a dozen pounds, 11 pounds or 12 pounds this week. Not surprisingly, because he absolutely bolted it. There are horses like that in there. We'd be the highest rated horse in both races. It wasn't so much the opposition as just the fact that you get the extra half a mile and you're taking on older horses, yes, but you get the allowance, which is, I think it's generous. So we plumped for that. I mean, we had to play the card this morning, and I tried to let everybody know as good as possible that, we weren't going to run Lulamba, because one or 2 of the others were probably just waiting to see what we were doing. You're
rated £7 higher than Blue Devassi on 141. You get a £10 weight allowance. You're probably going to improve for going up and trip, and you get an extra couple of days break from Cheltenham for Aintree.
You're quite right. That last point, it was also very much on when we were doing the pros and cons, that you do actually get an extra 2 days, yeah.
It makes sense to me that you're doing this, but some people seem to have lost their minds over it. But I've no problem with it, Nicky. It's all good with me.
They're 2 races. They're both Grade 1s, worth exactly the same.
Does this give you any indication as to what you're going to be doing with them next season going chasing? I think most people would look at it as an Arkle horse.
Yeah, well, I mean, jumping guns. I mean, I don't know, he might be a champion hurdle horse for all I know. Rather like in the same boat as we were with Sergino last year, who won the 4-year-old, yeah. And he went chasing only because he looked like a chaser. He jumped like one, and Constitution Hill was going very well at the time. So, who knows? This horse could start off maybe in the fighting 5th, like he did, and then find out where we are.
I like that idea. It worked very well with Sergino.
It did, yeah. It depends what Constitution Hill's up to at the same time.
How is Sergino?
He's as well. He was rescanned yesterday. He's having a scan every fortnight to see how well this ligament is, or is it repairing. Yeah, I mean, they're pleased with, it's not deteriorated any further, but, there's no dramatic, golly gosh, get on. This is going to be a long, long haul. It'll be a long time before we know whether he'll be racing again.
Okay, well, hopefully you'll get good news about him soon because we want to see that horse back.
It'll be the autumn before we'll have any idea whether we'll be doing it again or not.
Okay. Constitution Hill, he won the Aintree Hurdle in 2023. We've only seen him 4 times since, but he was sent off a red-hot favourite for the Champion Hurdle, and then obviously what happened. How is he since the fall?
He's been fine, thank you. He really has. The fall definitely didn't worry him. Nothing worries him, to be honest with you. He's got that wonderful constitution, to be honest with you. Simple word for it. Got a great mind game. That didn't worry him. Probably worried us more than him. And yeah, we've done plenty of jumping, but in our terms, I'd say he hasn't done much schooling. Now, the difference between the two is, as I say to us, is quite a bit. He has been jumping, mostly telegraph poles and loose. I'm trying to get him just to work this thing out for himself and stop trying to Yahoo his way around thinking this is funny. Having a go at jumping something that, that he can or cannot do. He's too enthusiastic. So hopefully we just don't want to curb his enthusiasm, but I want him to just pay attention a bit more.
It's funny how that works. It's obviously a very different thing, but Galopin Des Champs had that bad fall at Cheltenham, but he had been way too enthusiastic, way too exuberant, and then that just knocked the sense into him.
Well, I hope it will. Do you know what I mean? But the trouble is everybody's starting to suspect that he's not a good jumper. He's had one fall, and he did make one mistake in the Unibet hurdle. Yeah, he made a mess of the last. That was down to all sorts of stupid things. The fall at Cheltenham was just over-exuberant. He took off somewhere where you can't come from. And he's not a bad jumper. He's the best jumper in the country. But he can do silly things, and that's what we tried to iron out. Well, he's done 2 silly things in his whole life. Doesn't make him a dodgy jumper. No,
not at all. And he recovered very quickly from that mistake in the Beulah. I talked about that extensively going into Cheltenham.
Yeah.
I was amazed what happened. I hope he recovers. I hope he runs his race. Just out of interest, and this is the thing that concerns me, because I was very much with him for the Champion Hurdle, but distance is a great leveller. You destroyed Zanahiyr in the Champion Hurdle, and then he got within 3.5 lengths of you in the Aintree Hurdle. Is that any concern for you going into this race?
The Aintree Hurdle 2 years ago was probably his least impressive performance. But I don't really think it had anything to do with the fact that it was half a mile further. On that day, he did too much. He got there a long, long way from home. I think, we just got to ride him accordingly. I don't see it as a problem, I must admit. I hope I'm right. Because, to be fair, this is Lossiemouth's best distance.
Yes.
We've beaten her over 2 miles. But, you'd say that she absolutely loves the extra half a mile.
This is her wheelhouse, and she's beaten the Stairs Hurdle winner over this distance in a race he'd won twice as well. So it's going to be a fascinating race. I'm delighted he's there. If everything goes well, is the intention to go to Punchestown still?
It is, very much so. But we'll sort of cross that one when we get there. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I know that the Punchestown team will have the celebration ready for you and the welcome mats ready for you.
No, we're hoping to. It would be great to be able to do that and have a sort of rematch for the title with Stateman.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Golden Ace as well. That's going to be a cracking race.
Yeah.
Your Arkle winner, Django Bay, won the Arkle through stamina and class, and he goes up in trip to 2 mile 4. How are you feeling about him?
Well, I don't think anybody's be surprised to see him up to 2.5. We did actually even have him in the 3 mile race as well and thought about going down that road. We plugged for the 2.5. I hope we're right. And we'll wait till next season to stay if he stays 3.
Do you feel like he could be a King George contender?
Well, there you are. You never know. If he stays 3 miles, which I suspect he will. That was the temptation, to go 3 miles and map his plan for next year, where we knew. We've opted to stay in the 2.5 for the time being. And, I know where those 3 mile intermediate chases are at the beginning of next season, which will hopefully come into the plan.
Well, you might have another King George contender for the JP McManus team, who've got a massive amount of strength and depth in the stamina division, but Jonbon is unbeaten going right-handed. He loves flat tracks, and he returns to left-handed Aintree, which he's 3 from 3 from at the Aintree Festival. He won the Milling Chase last year. How is he since the Champion Chase?
Yeah, he's good. He's in very good form. The one thing we know about him, you can turn him around quite quickly. The year before last, he went Aintree to the Celebration Chase, which in that time was only 9 days. The Aintree's coming up the gaps between these vary every year due to Easter. And he does the 3-week turnaround between the Schlur and the Tingle Creek, and that is no problem to him. So, he had a race at Cheltenham. Constitution Hill didn't have a race at Cheltenham. So he's got an easier task to turn around quick. But Jonbon, he did have he had to work hard to get back into the race. I mean, lost his pitch completely. But he's in great. He tells us he's in great form anyway. So let's hope that's the case. Yeah, I think you're right in mentioning left-handed. He is round Ascot and Sandown and all those places. People will probably say, "Oh, at Cheltenham he's not as good." He doesn't. He's won 2 races at Cheltenham. He won the Schlur 2 years running. It's a fact. He does go right-handed very well. Is that because, I don't know, we've got nowhere else to go, so that's what we're going to do.
We're looking forward to seeing him, I would imagine, then Celebration Chase, which of course he dominates every single year. He has done brilliantly at Aintree for the last few years. Is the King George something that will be on your mind for next season?
I think it would. I mean, JP and I certainly this year, we were never going to do anything but 2 miles, except for his Aintree, which is 2.5, which technically I would have said was in his favour. And we'd stick to the normal tried and tested route. Now, we have sort of muttered, just chatting really. We would maybe try him over a bit further next year. I know we're trying it on Friday, but try it as a program, and therefore be programming the 2.5 earlier 2.5 mile races with a view possibly to looking at the King George. I don't know, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out now to do. Luckily, the entries don't close this week.
Exactly. I think he'd be a really interesting contender for that race, and hopefully he gets through Aintree and Sandown.
Right. Yeah.
First, okay. The final one I want to ask you about is a race you haven't won yet, but you've gone close, and I think you've got a great chance this year with Hyland, whose novice chase form is really good and ran a blinder at Kempton the last day when tactically the race didn't really pan out in his favour. How is he?
Well, you've read that very well. Yes. He's fine. I mean, it's a bold shout. He is only a novice. He's had the experience. He's had 6 runs over fences, which is the minimum required. But the Kempton race was aimed at being his prep in order, firstly, to keep him out of Cheltenham, and B, to get a race in with the timing right. What really went against us that day was torrential rain and soft ground, which he hates. The big plus is he's getting his ground. That's hugely in his favour. I mean, he ran very well at Kempton in, I'd say, very unsuitable ground. And he finished very strongly. I think we'd take his stamina on I wouldn't say take it for granted, but I'd be disappointed if that's the issue. His jumping, touch wood, can be deadly accurate. Yeah, we're all looking forward to it. And, here we go. It's 47 years or whatever it is. We've got Chantry House in there as well, so you never know.
Well, look, the best of luck with Hyland. I know it's been a long time coming, but I do like him an awful lot for this race. And actually, the more I look at him, the more interested I am. I was Team Mullins, and I'm very keen on Percival Lagarwa, but the more I look at Hyland, the more I think this is going to be a race that really pans out quite nicely for him. Just very briefly, 2 handicappers that I think are really interesting. Jericho de Repine ran a blinder at Cheltenham, and East India Express will be suited by the track as well.
I wouldn't think East India Express would get in.
Okay.
Jericho de Repine would run, yes. I think so. He's come out of Cheltenham very well. Travelled supremely well through the race there. It was only that we had another horse in there that was just a bit sharper on the day. They're 2 good horses, and they both, it was one of those nice situations very occasionally occur when you have 2 horses go to the last together, going away from the field. You sort of, once you get a little bit of, this could be all right.
Well, one of the things I do love about the coverage on television is when they zoom in on you in the stands with your binoculars looking at the horses. So when you see 2 of yours pulling away from everyone in one of the most prestigious handicaps of the season, what is that feeling like for you?
Well, as I say, it's for the very, very unfamiliar times that you can say at least one of them should be winning this.
Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. It's much appreciated. The best of luck to you at Aintree. Plenty of Grade 1 success in the past. Hopefully lots more to come this week.
Thank you very much.
Our coverage of Aintree continues with more big-name guests. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by the man who is about to be crowned the winner of the inaugural running of the David Power Cup. Harry Skelton, welcome back to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
It's great to talk to you. First of all, fingers crossed and all that, but basically you're going to do what Liverpool are going to do, be crowned champion of the David Powers Cup. The Premier League for them, of course, any moment now. First of all, what does it mean to you to win the trophy in its first year?
It's a great honour, really, to win this trophy in the name of David Power himself. Just an amazing opportunity for jump jockeys. But yeah, to get my name on that trophy first is something quite special, really. And
you haven't just won, you've fairly bolted up. More points to come, hopefully, during Aintree. But 378 points for you. The reigning champion jockey, Harry Cobden, 304. Nico de Boinville, 296. Sam Davis, 260. Jonbon, 222. When I'm rattling off that list of names, there's some big, high-profile names there. You've fairly scooted it in this.
Yeah, we've had a good season, really, with the horses. Riding for my brother, I think, has been, a big factor in this. The fact that, we've always made sure we've had plenty of entries in all these ITV races to pick up as many points as we possibly can. And, hot competition, obviously, from those names that you've read out. Cobden, de Boinville, Twiston Davis and Sean Bowen, fantastic jockeys and very competitive. So, look, we've kept the foot going, full to the pedal. Pedal down all winter, really, to make sure we can get as many points as we can. And we're in touching distance now, so it'd be great to get.
Prize money is a massive issue. It's always talked about by trainers, jockeys, owners, industry insiders as well. But one of the biggest problems that doesn't really get talked about is jockeys only get 3.5% of the prize money for a place, 6.8% of the prize money for a win. So any opportunity for jockeys to make more money is something I'm very much in favour of. And there is a lot of money up for grabs in the David Power Cup. So that's obviously a huge incentive as well.
Yeah, it's a massive incentive. This sort of thing, for jump jockeys has never happened before. And like you've just stated there about the percentages that we actually get, and probably a lot of people don't realise that, but £500,000 the winner, is obviously a massive amount of money, and future for my future and my family's future, something that's be brilliant to get your hands on. And it's a great incentive, and everyone has been very appreciative of this opportunity.
And to highlight just what a great season it's been for the Skeltons, Dan is on the brink of the Trainers' Championship. It's not over. There's a long way to go, but he's in a fantastic position, and you've got quite a bit of firepower to go between now and the end of the season as well. That must mean a lot to you as well, because he came so agonisingly close last year.
Yeah, like last year, being so close to winning a Trainers' Championship, and then to lose it, really, basically down that final hole, if you like, was heartbreaking, really, to sort of not get the victory in the end. But I think this year it just felt a little bit different, that we really set out us stall early on to try and get as much prize money on offer, as much prize money as we possibly could. And like last year, we never really expected to be in that position, but this year we've set out from the start to have a real go at the Trainers' Championship. And we're in touching distance, but it's never over in sport, as you well know. And we've just got to keep going now and keep the horses together, and keep them performing at the top of their game, and have a good Aintree, hopefully, and then on to Ayr and Sandown.
Well, Harry Skelton within touching distance of getting your hands on the trophy and the massive cash prize of the David Power Jockeys Cup. And Dan Skelton within touching distance of being crowned champion trainer for the first time, and I think it'll be the first of many. One of the most significant bullets that you have to fire at Aintree is Grey Dawning. You kept him fresh, didn't go to Cheltenham with him. How is he since his prep race for this in Kelso?
Yeah, he's in really good form. Obviously missed Cheltenham, come out of the Kelso run really well, and he's in great form coming into the Aintree Bowl. And we're really looking forward to it. I think he's a Grade 1 performer. He's won a Grade 1 as a novice, and I think coming into this race fresh will hopefully be a big factor but we're very happy with him coming into the race.
Any concern for you about the ground and the fact that he was beaten at Aintree a year ago?
I think the fact that he's beaten Aintree a year ago was that he won at Cheltenham, and that probably just left his mark on him a little bit. It's very hard to do the double. He ran well in defeat, but I think he'd given his all at Cheltenham, and couldn't sort of pull all that through to Aintree. Circumstances, we missed Cheltenham, and here we are coming into Aintree fresh. So I think the ground would be absolutely perfect. I think they do a fantastic job up there, and it'd be probably good to soft. But I don't think anyone will be moaning about the ground. It's been an unbelievably dry spell, obviously with no rain, but normally at Aintree you get absolute perfect jumping conditions.
He was very classy novice last season, and he was really, really good at Kelso. A brave performance in the Betfair Chase as well. So hopefully you're back towards the winner's enclosure with great owning at Aintree. Bit of a bombshell decision by Nicky Henderson in the juvenile hurdle, and that's had implications on you because you had a really interesting dark horse for the juvenile hurdle who's suddenly become the second favourite for the race in Live Conti or Live Conti, whichever pronunciation you want to go for. The standard of the race he won on debut in the UK wouldn't be the highest, but he comes with a massive reputation and is clearly a horse of immense talent. How do you feel about Live Conti, Live Conti in the juvenile hurdle?
Yeah, I think he's a really nice horse. Obviously, his form from the Weatherby race wouldn't be, much to write home about, and it was a pretty low-key event, but he did it very impressively, and we were keen to get a run under his belt before we came here. And his run in Otoy when he won was very impressive, really, and the form of that race has worked out very smartly. So this horse is, I don't see him as a juvenile, if that makes sense. I think there's, further down the line, I see this horse as a chaser in the making, but a really nice horse, and he's prepared very well for this race and comes into it in good form. And yeah, we'll be hopeful of a very good run, although we lack maybe some experience of the others. They've had a bit more racing, but I expect him to run very well.
Okay, looking forward to seeing him, and I think it could be a very exciting prospect for next season, irrespective of what happens at Aintree on Thursday. Take No Chances ran a blinder in the Mares Hurdle in a race that tactically didn't really pan out in her favour, but she reopposes Lossiemouth and a certain horse called Constitution Hill as well in the Aintree Hurdle. How are you feeling about her chances?
Yeah, look, in all realisticness, we've got a chance picking up some prize money. She's improved unbelievably well this year. Really never thought she would end up rated what she is and running these sort of races. But, her mindset, really, she's a very brave and tough filly, and, really gives her all. And she's gone up through the handicap ratings and been running very well of late. So, look, if we come here and pick up some money again, I can't see us troubling probably Constitution Hill and Lossiemouth again. But if we could finish in the 4, we'd be absolutely delighted.
Okay, you've got a horse called Get a Whiskey in the Mares Bumper. She was very, very good on her debut. Maybe not so good the last day, but she wasn't beaten far, to be fair.
Ran well in the listed race at Market Raise, and wasn't beaten all that far. I think Aintree will suit her a little bit more. I think Market Raise is quite a sharp sort of track, and these bumpers, you never really know what you're taking on. It's a bit of an unknown, but we like this filly. She did the job nicely up at Carlisle on her debut. And again, she's come into the race in good form, and we're happy with her. So it's a bit of an unknown. You never know where you quite stand against all the others. But I think she's a nice mare going forward.
One that could be a really interesting dark horse in the top novices hurdle is Royal Infantry. He disappointed last time at Haydock, but he'd been very, very good on his first 2 starts.
He was good on his first 2 starts. Just a little bit the last day at Haydock, maybe. There was a bit of pace in the race, and we just took a lead. And maybe he's a horse that really likes to get on with things and let him roll on the front end. So you can see us making plenty of use of him. Probably at Aintree on Friday. He's undergone a wind operation as well since his last run. We just felt that maybe that was just annoying him a little bit. So come out of that operation very well and been training well. So we'll be hopeful here of a good run. It would be a big question to say, to ask him if he was going to win. Probably got a bit to find on figures, but nice horse, and I'm sure he'll be jumping fences as well next year, and hopefully he'll improve when he goes chasing.
And those prominent riding tactics could work out really well in that race at Aintree.
Yeah, he's not a horse that sort of I'd see as has to make the running, but I think he's a horse that really likes to get on with it and use his stride, and he's a good jumper and likes to bowl along. So stays 2 mile really well. So that's what we'll be doing. If someone else is making the pace, then great, we'll be getting a lead.
I know you really fancy Be Aware for the Coral Cup and things didn't quite pan out from there, but the back form is very much on offer and very much in evidence. How do you feel about his chances on Friday?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in his finishing effort probably at Cheltenham. I felt like he would go on and win, going a 2 out, and then just sort of kept galloping rather than picking up. But he hadn't run for a while, and maybe that run might have just done him the world of good. Scored in this morning. He's in good form. I'd like to hope that he's got every chance.
We might see Gwenny May Boy on Saturday, which is going to be a big day for you. We'll talk more a little bit about your Grand National ride in a second. But Gwenny May Boy would be a really interesting runner in the Liverpool Hurdle, and we don't fully know if Tihupu is going to line up yet.
He's really progressed really well, Gwenny May Boy, risen up the handicap, and then performed fantastically well to win the Rendlesham. So a winner at this meeting last year, and we're very much looking forward to running him.
And then finally, your ride in the Grand National is 300 through 5, who's got some very high-class handicap form to his name and runs for a pretty strong squad for the Paul Nicholls team. How are you feeling about his ability in the Grand National?
Yeah, looking forward to pick up a ride in the Grand National. I think every jockey always hopes they're going to get a ride in the Grand National. It's great to pick up a ride for Paul on 300 through 5. He's shown good, solid form at a very high level, stays really well, and Paul's very happy with him. I think he's always had this race in the back of his mind that he was going to come to Aintree for the Grand National. So great ride to pick up. Maybe a bit of a bigger price, more on the outsiders, but I know in the Grand National he's got a nice weight on his back and very much looking forward to riding him. Nice
weight. He jumps well, touch wood. And he handled the ground as well. There's a lot to like about him. He's definitely got place prospects.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. Like I say, he's performed at a fairly high level. I think he's well up there in the 150s, and he's shown that on a number of occasions. Ran very well the last time at Ascot when just getting beat. I think he likes pretty nice ground. Seems to jump well, plenty of experience under his belt. So ticks a lot of boxes.
And I was waiting for confirmation for the Melling Chase. Are we going to see Protectorat line up against Jonbon?
We are, yeah. I think there's only 4 running the Melling Chase. El Fabiolo, Matata, Jonbon and Protectorat. So small select field, but what a field it is. 4 high class quality horses. He always runs his race. We would just like to see a bit of rain for him. Probably soft ground over 2.5 miles is really what he wants. But we'll go there and he'll give his usual all and give his true running. And he's a great horse to have, and we're very lucky to have him.
Very, very much so. Particularly, I'm glad you're there, because with that race cutting up the way it has, it badly needs him, and he's got a big chance as well. Harry, who are you looking forward to partnering most over the next 3 days?
I'm really looking forward to getting back on Grey Dawning. He's been kept fresh for the bowl, and hopefully he can show everyone he's a proper Grade 1 horse.
Best of luck to you, Harry. Thanks so much for talking to us, and congratulations on the David Power Jockeys Cup.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet.